What's up, everybody? Welcome back. In this video, we're going to pick up where we left off from the last one, in which we introduced some of the backstory to the Iliad, Book 9. If you haven't watched that video, I strongly urge you to go back and do that unless you're extremely familiar with the Iliad. Otherwise, we're going to pick up right away with some of the lesson. What we're going to be focusing on today in Book 9 of the Iliad are the strategies of persuasion. How do people get convinced to do certain things, to behave in certain ways? And how does this, let's call it manipulation, let's call it convincing, how does it really work? What are the successful techniques that are employed, and what can we learn and take back to our own lives from some of these techniques? Remember the reading strategy. Please try to step out of your 21st century notions of good and bad, right and wrong, need this, don't need that mentality. Try to get into the ancient Greek perspective. And to help you to do that, I'm going to introduce a few key terms which I want you to keep in mind as we're doing our reading. So, first and foremost, we've got these markers of importance here. These are numbers 1, 2, and 3. The Greeks didn't have, at this time, a system of recording to tell someone's tale. All you had was what people said about you. Okay? So we have something similar in the modern day, wherein if you see someone with a really ballin' car or some flashy jewelry or a beautiful wife or husband, you're going to say, oh man, that person must be successful. The Greeks personified this to a T. You are what people say you are, and people say you are things based on what you have and what stories can be told about you. So let's take that first one, what you got. What you got is called geros. This is a prize that's given by one's peers. Now, to go back to the story that we were telling before, the golden apple that's rolled in the middle of the wedding that the three women are fighting over, the three goddesses are fighting over, that's geros. It's a prize. With that prize comes honor. This is time in ancient Greek, and it's our second word. Geros is a prize. Time is honor from prizes. We think of this as kind of like a persona, like doctor or esquire or professor. These are like honorific titles. And the interesting thing about these kinds of honors is that it seems to work in an almost unfair fashion. And I'll explain what I mean here in a second. So let's say you and your marauding horde of warriors has captured a town. Okay, you're the leader. You capture this town. Everybody piles all the gold and jewels and victorious spoils in a big pile. And you start to divide them up based on what? Based on honor. So whoever's got the most honor to begin with gets the best prize, and so their honor keeps going up faster than the other people's. This is fascinating. It's an economic principle, and it's also something that comes through in the Bible. This is in Matthew 25:29, and it's called the Matthew principle. So you can find this in the New Testament. It's in the Gospel of Matthew, and it goes, "So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them." So if you don't have anything, you get nothing. If you have a lot, you get more. So think about that in terms of what that means. It's definitely not fair, but it creates something that's somewhat similar to what we have in the modern day as well. Think about who produces the most software. Well, it's a couple of software companies, and they get all the money. Yeah, sure, there are other software companies that start up, but unless there's some kind of miracle that happens, they can't really compete with these major ones. And the same thing kind of happens in this ancient Greek time and society as well. So the higher your honor is, the more honor you gain. And honor, remember, is based on what people say about you and those prizes. So let's go on with this what people say about you, okay? Your story. This is called kleos, or glory, the glorious story. Okay, this is your second life almost. It's the personification that people give you as they talk about you. So we get kind of like two lives that you get. First one, you live and die, and then the second one is all the stories that people tell about you after you're gone. And this is the thing that Achilles really fears losing. Remember, he's quit the battle because he's like, well, what is my story going to be? I got robbed by this sack of wine, Agamemnon. To hell with him then. I'm not going to fight his war. So this gets into our next three vocabulary words. What happens when people invert these systems and slight you? Okay, they take some geros or time or kleos from you. Well, they can do it in three ways. Now this is our man Aristotle, our great classifier, our great man of the means, Aristotle. He classified three ways that people can generate anger in ancient Greece through kind of inverting the system of honor. First one, contempt. And that's to treat someone like dirt. You just don't respect them. You don't care what their feelings are going to be. You don't care what their honor is. So a good example of this would be when Paris and Helen kind of run away and they don't care about how this is going to affect Menelaus. It's like the most beautiful woman in the world and the wife of a powerful king, and she just absconds. She just runs away with this lover boy. Don't really care about how Menelaus is going to feel. Contempt. Okay. Second one, spite. This is theft without any kind of personal gain. So remember, Agamemnon stole Achilles' slave girl, okay, his bed maiden. This wasn't really to gain anything. Agamemnon has plenty of these people to, sew his tunics and mend his tent or whatever. So to take this girl isn't to benefit him in any real way. It's to spite Achilles. And the last is insolence. And this may be the worst of all. Insolence is public shame. It's the one thing that people can't stand. It's the one thing that people at this time turn their heads up to the gods and pray for some revenge. Get this person back. He stole my daughter. This is Chryses now, complaining about Agamemnon, publicly dismissing him in front of all the Greeks who laughed at him. Okay? This is insolence. Publicly shaming victims just for pleasure. So Agamemnon, he's full of slights, this one. And this is one of the reasons why Achilles, the great warrior, hates him so much. So what do you do if someone does a slight? Someone puts a slight on. Well, there's a couple things that you can do. First thing you can do is ransom. It's like, all right, you stole my daughter. I'm not a great warrior. I can't go in there and straight hack and slash and do Mr. Hero to the rescue and bring her back out. Can't do it. Too old, priest. Okay, what do? Well, I try to offer a bargain. You stole something from me, so I give you something in return to get that thing back. All right, I'll give you all these bars of gold. I'll give you everything that you may want. Just give me my daughter back. Okay? This reinforces the status quo. So Agamemnon steals from Chryses. He goes up here. Rather than attacking him, Chryses gives him a bunch of stuff. He gives her back his daughter, and the status quo stays what it is. It doesn't change. The flip side, the last vocabulary word down here. You might not want to ransom. You might want revenge. This is poine. So poine, that's a ransom. Poine, that's revenge. Okay? You stole something from me. I'm getting it back. I'm taking some heads with me too. And so what that does is it inverts the status quo. It's like, okay, you stole something from me. You're up here now. Just wait. I'm coming in with my sword and I'm getting my stuff back. Bruh. So that's what Achilles tries to do at the end. He's like, I'm a warrior. I fight. I win. You took something from me. Stole my honor. What am I going to do? Boom! Get that back! Unfortunately, the gods step in. So Achilles is lost for something to do. So the society for Achilles breaks down. And where we pick it back up is this reading. The Greeks are getting slaughtered. And we decide to call a meeting. Meanwhile, Marshal Agamemnon led his commanders, a file of senior chiefs, toward his own lodge, and set before them a feast to please their hearts. They reached out for the good things that lay at hand, but when they had put aside desire for food and drink, the old man began to weave his counsel among them. This is Nestor, the great counselor. Nestor was first to speak. From the early days, his plans and tactics always seemed the best. With goodwill to the chiefs, he rose and spoke, Great Marshal Atrides. This is Agamemnon, another name for Agamemnon, Great Marshal Atrides. Lord of men, Agamemnon, with you I will end, my king, with you I will begin. Since you hold sway over many warriors, vast armies, and Zeus has placed in your hands the royal scepter and time-honored laws, so you will advise them well. So you above all must speak your mind and listen, and carry out the next man's counsel too, whenever his spirit leads him on to speak for the public good. Credit will go to you for whatever he proposes. Now I will tell you what seems best to me. No one will offer a better plan than this. So think about what Nestor is doing here. How would you describe Nestor's strategy to start to persuade Agamemnon to listen here? Go back and take a look at that if you weren't entirely sure. How does Nestor start to weave this persuasive technique? What's he doing here? The plan I still retain, he says at the top of page 255. And now I've been forming well for a good long while now, from the very day that you, my illustrious king, infuriated Achilles. You went and took from him the girl Briseis, and not with any applause from us, far from it. I, for one, I urged you against it strenuously, but you gave way to your overbearing anger, disgraced a great man the gods themselves esteem. You seized his gifts of honor and you keep her still. But even so, late as it is, let us contrive to set this to rights, to bring him round with gifts of friendship and warm, winning words. And Agamemnon, the lord of men, consented quickly. That's no lie, old man. A full account you give of all my acts of madness. Mad, blind I was. Not even I would deny it. Why, look, that man is worth an entire army. The fighter Zeus holds dear with his heart. How he exalts him now and mauls Achaea's forces. Achaea's forces are the Greek forces, and they are just getting mauled. They're getting destroyed. But since I was blinded, lost in my inhuman rage, now at last I am bent on setting things to right. I'll give a priceless ransom paid for friendship. So Think here first. Does Agamemnon agree and follow Nestor's advice? Why or why not? The second thing I want you to think about, and really try to do this, is remember, this is epic poetry, so I'm reading this off. But remember, this is all spoken without any kind of writing. So try to remember everything that Agamemnon offers. And try to remember, because it'll come back later. Here, before you all, I'll name in full the splendid gifts I offer. 7 tripods never touched by fire, 10 bars of gold, 20 burnished cauldron, a dozen massive stallions, racers who earn me trophies with their speed. He is no poor man who owns what they have won, not strapped for goods with all that lovely gold, where trophies those high, strong horses carried off for me. 7 women I'll give him, flawless, skilled in craft, women of Lesbos, the ones I chose, my privilege, that day he captured the Lesbos citadel himself. They outclassed the tribes of women in their beauty. These I will give, and along with them I will go the one I took away at first, Briseis' daughter. I will swear a solemn binding oath in the bargain. I never mounted her bed, never once made love with her, the natural thing for mankind, men and women joined. Now all these gifts will be handed him at once. But if, later, the gods allow us to plunder the great city of Priam, let him enter in when we share the spoils, load the holds of his ship with gold and bronze, as much as his heart desires. Now choose for his pleasure 20 Trojan women, second only to Argive Helen in their glory. And then, if we can journey home to Achaean Argos, pride of the breasting earth, he'll be my son by marriage. I will even honor him on par with my Orestes, his son. His name is Orestes. Full grown by now, reared in the lap of luxury. 3 daughters are mine in my hall, well built. Christemos, Laodice, and and he may lead away whichever one he likes, with no bride price asked, home to Peleus' house. And I will add a dowry, yes, a magnificent treasure, the likes of which no man has ever offered with his daughters. 7 citadels I will give him, filled with people, Cardalababa, and the grassy slopes of Hammer. Fine, the sacrosanct, the Tia, deep in meadows, fair, rolling up high, and Parassus, green with vineyards. All face the sea at the far edge of sandy Pylos, and the man who lives within them, rich in the sheep flocks, rich in shambling cattle, with honor will honor him like a god, with hordes of gifts, and beneath his sceptered sway live out his laws in sleek and shining peace. Consider, is this a poine or poine? Why does Agamemnon respond to Achilles in this way? All this I would extend to him, just above 190. All this I would extend to him, if he will end his anger. Let him submit to me. Only the god of death is so relentless. Death submits to no one. So mortals hate him most of all the gods. Let him bow down to me. I am the greater king. I am the elder born. I claim the greater man. Think about how this may foreshadow a response from Achilles. How does this foreshadow a response? Nestor, the noble charioteer, embraced his offer. Generous marshal Atrides, lord of men Agamemnon, no one could underrate these gifts of yours, not now. The treasure trove you offer, Prince Achilles. Come, we'll send a detail of picked men. They'll go to Achilles' tent with all good speed. Quick, whomever my eye will light on in review, this mission's there. An old Phoenix first. So the first guy who's going to go to Achilles, this guy, Phoenix, number 1. Zeus loves the man, so let him lead the way. Then giant Ajax, so Ajax, number 2. And tactful Odysseus, number 3. Heralds, Odious, not a great name for a guy, I guess, and Eurybates, you escort them. Water for their hands. A reverent silence now, a prayer to Zeus. Perhaps he'll show us mercy. The brisk commands he issued pleased them all. Heralds brought the water at once and rinsed their hands, and the young men brimmed the mixing bowls with wine, and tipping first drops for the god in every cup. So you gotta imagine, sacrifices at this time often involved wine or meats. So they'll dump out some wine or they'll throw some burning meats in a fire. And that's merely as an idea that you're giving up something valuable to get something even more valuable in the future. And this is a very important idea, offering sacrifice. We do the same thing. It's one of the reasons why we try to save money for the future. Right? We're making a sacrifice for now in order to get something for the future. They did it this way. Sacrifice a little bit of wine, sacrifice some good cuts of meat, maybe you get something in return later on. Okay. They put the first drops for the god in every cup. They poured full round, so everybody's having a sip of wine. Libations finished, so everybody's had their drink. Each envoy having drunk to his heart's content, the party moved out from Atrides' shelter. Remember, Agamemnon shelter. Atrides is Agamemnon. Nestor, the old driver, gave them marching orders, a sharp glance at each, Odysseus most of all. Try hard now. Bring him round, invincible Achilles. Yeah, remember, do your job. All I did was kind of set you up. Okay? But now you gotta go to work, and you gotta get this guy. So now imagine, 3 guys marching off to try to convince an invincible, godlike warrior to come back to the battle. In a way, this is like a small battle in and of itself. It's a battle of words. You've got to break down Achilles' defenses and get him to do what you want him to do. Now the question is, how do you do that against an invincible man? Not an easy question to answer. First thing you may consider is, what does Achilles want? So Ajax and Odysseus made their way at once, just above line 220, where the battle lines of breakers crash and drag, praying hard to the god who moves and shakes the earth, that they might bring the proud heart of Achilles round with speed and ease. Reaching the Myrmidon shelters. Okay, Myrmidons are the group of people that Achilles represents. He is the prince of the Myrmidons. They're a people, a great warrior. It means ants. They like ants. They charge over things in black. He reached the Myrmidon shelters in their ships. They found him there, delighting his heart now, plucking strong and clear on the fine lyre, beautifully carved, its silver bridge set firm. He won from the spoils when he razed Eetion's city. Achilles was lifting his spirits with it now, singing the famous deeds of fighting heroes. So he's over here and he's playing this harp, and he's singing about great heroes.